In this video, I'll be giving you a look at a new winter weather setup to watch, as a winter storm could bring the Midwest snow while other areas see rain and wind into the week ahead. I've got the details on that, plus the general weather pattern, so stick around for the full overview. With that being said, I want to start this video by overviewing what's going to happen with the atmospheric pattern into the week ahead, and how that will impact what happens at the surface. Areas of blue on this map as I play it through are going to indicate where the jet stream is likely going to dip down with a trough, and where we're likely going to have some active weather and then some cooler than average conditions. On the flip side, areas of orange and red indicate where we're going to see ridges and warmer than average temperatures, and in this case we're likely going to have dry conditions and warmer than average temperatures to kick off the week for a lot of the central and eastern United States, as this area of orange right here indicates warmth pushing all the way on up. In fact, above average warmth, moving anywhere from the central all the way to the east coast regions of the United States. But you see that blue lurking out west as early as Monday into Tuesday. We're going to already be seeing some active weather and some mountain snow pushing there to kick off the week. Eventually, as that trough or dig in the jet stream pushes east out of Tuesday into Wednesday, we're going to see the contrast zone between our ridge and our trough move smack dab into the Mississippi Valley region and just in general into the middle of the United States. That's going to create a winter storm that has a cold side with some snowfall that exits the plains and eventually moves into the Midwest. We'll also see some rain beginning around Tuesday night and into Wednesday, and then into points eastbound from the Mississippi River Valley and all the way to the east coast as we go through Wednesday into Thursday and eventually into Friday as this trough digs in and eventually cools everyone down by the end of the week. Before I discuss the specific aspects of that storm system coming to the US this week, I did want to let you know that you can now become a member of my YouTube channel with a link that is going to be down in the top of the description as well as in a pinned comment of this video. The levels are going to be either 99 cents per month for custom emojis and icons next to your profile picture and name, as well as priority comment reply. And then if you upgrade to the $2.99 per month level, you will also get members only videos. This is a completely optional way to support the channel in an extra way, but if you are interested in doing that, the links will be down below this video. Thank you in advance if you join. Alright, back over to the weather now. We're going to move on from the storm system that has unfortunately cost many lives and so much property due to the recent tornado outbreaks that it caused, as it's now getting closer to the east coast and weakening down by the time it will get offshore into our Monday. We're on to the next storm system, and I'm using this blended guidance with your GFS Ensemble's future radar to give you a general idea of how it's going to look as we go into the week ahead. And impacts are going to start into parts of the west, while parts of the central and eastern zones are getting back to being warmer than average temperature-wise with dry conditions as we start the week. You can see here based on this image that as we go through Monday and then into the early part of our Tuesday, March 18th of 2025, parts of Nevada, Utah, stretching on up into parts of Idaho, southern Montana, Wyoming, and then trying to jut on out into parts of the Dakotas as well. We will be watching some light to even moderate to heavy snowfall, especially as you go on up in elevation, just as we go within these next 24 to 48 hours of when I'm recording this video. Eventually, low pressure will move out of the Rockies, and this will be a fairly strong low pressure system by the time it moves out into the plains by around the Tuesday night into Wednesday morning time frame. We could see some rainfall, maybe even some brief strong thunderstorms that could have some hail in the mix into a place like Iowa, northern Missouri, or over into Wisconsin as early as around Wednesday morning. That will eventually turn over to snow, but the snow around Wednesday morning time frame will initially be back on over into this area I'm circling, with the highest confidence in that from northern Kansas into Nebraska, with at least light snow possible all the way on up through Minnesota and northern Wisconsin to kickstart the day. The low pressure is only expected to begin moving east and start having more impacts by the time Wednesday goes on, with a possibility of some showers and thunderstorms that could be a little bit on the stronger side as they push out of the Mississippi Valley and over into other parts of the Midwest from southern Michigan and Indiana and Ohio all the way back down to Mississippi. We'll be watching those likely through the day Wednesday. Then we'll have the cold side of this storm. You can see snow shifting eastward, that snow to rain line moving east as we see the colder air moving in throughout the day on Wednesday. That will push a lot of Minnesota, especially the southern part of the state, eastern and northeastern Iowa, and a lot of the state of Wisconsin over to a pretty moderate to heavy snow that could even include some gusty winds as Wednesday pushes on. Sure, there could be some brief sleet or freezing rain before the snow moves in, but generally this will be a fairly quick transition from rain and storms early in the day Wednesday to snow in the areas that see that changeover. We'll even get the possibility of some snow in a place like Chicago or into Detroit, Michigan as we go overnight Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. By this point in time into our Thursday afternoon, we'll likely see a generally weakened low pressure in comparison to what it was back into the plains, making its way over closer to the east coast, but it could try to refuel fuel back up, get a little bit more strength and oomph by the time it gets closer to the East Coast through the end of the day Thursday and into Thursday night. That could not only start up a round of showers and thunderstorms that could be stronger from the Carolinas up into the mid-Atlantic coastlines around the late day Thursday timeframe, it could also lead to a low pressure that tries to form offshore, and that could certainly help in bringing a brief crash over to snow, even in a place like Boston, Massachusetts, but especially the interior New England zones around Thursday night into Friday morning. That's a trend we'll have to track, but overall, pretty much all zones will just be cooler than average temperature-wise as we dry out by the end of our Friday at the very latest there in the east. With that being said, I did want to talk about one other aspect of this storm that is set to impact everyone. Using this blended guidance, I want to show you that we're going to see wind gusts not only through parts of the Mountain West, where we could see some peak gusts upwards of 40 to 60 miles per hour in some of those highest elevations, especially in the Four Corners, by the time we get through this point in time into our Tuesday afternoon, evening, and then into our Wednesday early morning. But eventually, as we go through the day Wednesday, we're going to see gusts moving on out as that strong low moves on out into parts of the Midwestern United States, with low pressure likely out of Wednesday morning into Wednesday afternoon, setting itself up around the Iowa and Missouri border. We're likely going to see these south to north winds out ahead of that front, gusting anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour up and down the Mississippi Valley into the Midwest. On the flip side, through parts of the plains where we could even be seeing some snow, 40 to 60 mile per hour gusts there from the green into the orangish shades. And wherever that does overlap with some of the snowfall in terms of the totals that I'll talk about in just a minute, that could certainly blow those snowfall totals around and create near, if not full-on blizzard and whiteout conditions. That's something we'll watch even as some of those gusts push on up closer to the Great Lakes, with at least 30 to 40 mile per hour winds expected into our Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, some gusts could rebound over parts of the Ohio Valley, the southeast into the mid-Atlantic with 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts expected there, and we could even see more gusts close to the northeast coast of the U.S. on the backside of that low that could form near the coast by early Friday morning. So be on the lookout for that, especially on up in places like New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, back down into these southern New England zones. While the rainfall totals out of this particular system don't look too impressive or likely to cause flooding for many zones, we are going to get some notable snowfall, and I want to talk about some of those 24-hour increments of snow that are anticipated and where the highest confidence areas for the highest totals are with this blended guidance on screen. Let's start off with the west. You can see some totals there, especially in the Sierra area of California, getting upwards of a foot. That's not a surprise out of these systems to move on through those zones. That's going to be by the time we get through our Monday and into our Tuesday morning. Other zones in the higher elevations of Nevada, Idaho, Utah, parts of Colorado, Wyoming, even down into the Four Corners could get at least a few inches of snow before we see our stripe of snow really move on out into the Central Plains and Midwest. Initially out of this storm, by the time we go through Tuesday night and into Wednesday, I think out of eastern Colorado, northern Kansas, and through a lot of southern and southeastern Nebraska, at least 2 inches of snow is a pretty good bet, with some spots getting closer to 4 to 6 plus. And that same stripe will continue, but in a likely thinner fashion into points eastbound, or especially through northern and central Iowa, far southeastern Minnesota, into parts of central Wisconsin, and up into the upper peninsula of Michigan. Many spots could get upwards of 3 to 6 inches of snow, with isolated 6 to 10 inch totals in that highest band. We'll get light accumulations into a place like Chicago, Illinois, and points eastbound from there overnight out of our Wednesday night and into Thursday morning, but anything from there and then eventually into the interior northeast looks pretty light to moderate at the very highest in terms of the snowfall amounts. With that being said, here's a very quick summary of the winter storm set to move out of the origin zone out west and then cross from the central to the eastern U.S. by the time we go from March 18th through 21st. Severe weather could be possible in isolated fashions here or there in some of the areas I talked about earlier, but overall, the threats are not high enough for me to issue any yellow, orange, or red shaded areas on this overview graphic just yet. You can see we'll get a lot of rain in parts of the Mississippi Valley, eventually all the way on over to the mid-Atlantic, and then zones that will transition from rain to snow are indicated in the purple, with that best chance for the heaviest snow accumulations out of this event back on over out of the plains in places like Kansas and Nebraska, and then on up into parts of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the upper peninsula of Michigan. One thing that could lead to a struggle in terms of the snowfall accumulations out of the upcoming winter storm is what I'm about to discuss with this brief temperature forecast for the next few days. As you can see here with the National Digital Forecast Database, forecast highs into our Monday, March 17th, especially in the Central Plains, are expected to be well above average, with the ridge ahead of our storm system, 70s and 80s all the way as far north as South Dakota, parts of Minnesota, ahead of what's going to be coming in Tuesday night and into Wednesday. What about the highs Tuesday? Are they any cooler? Not really. Still 60s and 70s all the way up into Nebraska, parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. By this point in time, areas that were a little bit cooler on Monday behind the recent storm rebounding as well into our Tuesday with 60s and 70s near the east coast with our ridge. And then look at this, even into Wednesday, you can see a high of around 49 or 50 in Nebraska. That's because it's still going to be cooling down from Tuesday, and that high is going to happen at midnight Wednesday morning before temperatures continue to plummet as that snow moves in. So the fact that we're going to be so warm before the snowfall moves in really means that it's going to be in that exact heaviest stripe of snow where we're actually able to pick up more notable accumulations due to the ground warming up in a lot of these zones before the event occurs. That's all I have to say for today's video, so I want to close out with a couple quick reminders while I sit on this winter storm recap graphic that I showed you just a bit ago. Of course, if you want more updates on this winter storm and the general weather pattern in more detail as we get closer, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll likely have 1 or 2 more video updates on this system, and if I don't have videos, I can rest assure you there will be plenty of live stream updates to come, occasional morning updates, and especially some evening updates as we get closer to this system and the weather pattern. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and turning those notifications on. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you right here next time at One Nation Weather.